From a young age, we are told that life is not fair. As we look at the world, the evidence seems overwhelming. Some lives appear to overflow with unearned comfort and joy, while others are marked by relentless struggle, loss, and tragedy. On the surface, the distribution of pain and pleasure often looks unjust and even cruel. Facing this disparity, it is only natural to ask, why is life so unfair? However, appearances can be deceiving. We don't see the entire story of another person's life. A billionaire may inhabit a private hell of constant fear, paranoia, and stress, while a person with nothing might access consistent, genuine moments of peace and pleasure. Every life contains hidden burdens that weigh it down and unseen blessings that lift it up. Regardless of how a life looks from the outside, the internal experience is always a complex, shifting mix of good and bad. It is easy to judge someone else's life by how it appears, especially in a world where people carefully curate what they show to others. On social media, for instance, someone may post only their brightest, happiest moments, creating the illusion that their life is mostly joyful with less suffering. But these snapshots hide the complexity that every human life endures. Appearances might hide the late-night worries, the private losses, or the quiet frustrations that others carry. Because we rarely glimpse the full picture, it becomes natural to assume that other people have it better than we do, and life itself must be unfair. Even though life seems unfair at times, there is evidence that a deeper balance exists. A sudden stroke of luck rarely arrives without unseen costs. Pressure, fear, or loss often follow closely behind, and those who endure great hardship do not always remain broken. Many adapt, discover strength they didn't know they had, and often find joy in places they never expected. Psychologists have noticed this pattern and call it hedonic adaptation. It is as if our emotions carry a quiet thermostat, constantly pulling us back from extremes toward a balanced state. There is one way life could be fair for everyone, no matter how different our lives appear. Not through money, status, or luck, but through felt experience. In this view, fairness would not depend on how long someone lives, how their life unfolds, or what they believe. It would depend only on what it feels like to exist. Perfect fairness would mean that, by the end of a conscious life, the total moments of pleasure and the total moments of pain balance one another. We call this hypothesis the law of fairness. This book explores whether such a law exists and how it might shape every human life. To determine whether life is truly fair, we must examine the entire story, not just a single chapter. Every experience, from the first moment of awareness to the final moment of consciousness, contributes to the overall balance. Joy and sorrow, pleasure and pain, success and failure all leave their mark on the total. Only by looking at a whole lifetime can we begin to see whether life, taken in full, is fair. How does life keep things fair without us noticing? It works quietly through the currents of our own minds. Our instincts, desires, addictions, fears, and even sudden pulls of attention guide us toward experiences that help uphold the law of fairness. Urges that feel like free will often act as guardrails, steering us away from choices that would leave us permanently unbalanced. Under this law, a mind cannot pass on while it still owes a debt of feeling. Yet reaching equilibrium does not necessarily require death. Most of us find balance many times throughout our lives, daily or weekly for some people, and for others, perhaps only once in a lifetime. For every delight we enjoy, an equivalent cost in feeling must be paid. There is no free happiness. All the pleasures of life, food, play, rest, love, and companionship must be balanced by an equal measure of life's pains, anger, sorrow, anxiety, and stress somewhere in the timeline at some point in life. Yet this means none of our suffering is wasted. Each moment of pain or frustration functions as a credit, softening a future hardship or paying for a past joy. The law of fairness gives meaning to every struggle. Our tears today may water the flowers of tomorrow's happiness or extinguish the lingering fires of the indulgent past. If the law of fairness exists, then something must keep account of our feelings. We call this unseen process the Q system. Rather than a single mechanism or controller, the Q system is best understood as the emergent result of many interacting biological, psychological, and informational processes that regulate conscious experience over time. Taken together, these processes constrain the long-term accumulation of positive or negative felt experience across a unified conscious life. Imagine it as a program running beneath awareness, guiding experience toward balance. It ensures that no life ends owing joy or pain. Consider a graph of a person's feelings over time. At each moment, F of T represents the net felt value. Blue bars above the baseline show net positive felt experience, and red bars below represent net negative felt experience. The horizontal axis spans from the birth of mind on the left to the death of mind on the right. The lifetime ledger LT is the running total of these values. A life may display wild swings, yet by the final moment, the total area above the line must equal the total area below it. This is the law of fairness in action, a conservation of feeling. Fairness is not measured in the world of things, but in the internal world of felt experience alone. The law of fairness explains balance without invoking miracles. It proposes that fairness is a natural law, as fundamental as gravity or the conservation of energy. The Q system acts as an invisible guardrail, shaping life toward balance rather than allowing a permanently unfair ending. We have free will, but only within the choices that preserve the ultimate balance. This limitation is an unseen filter on our decisions. Fairness emerges from the physics of experience itself. We cannot cheat the system. There is no way to take more than our share of good times without eventually accounting for it. The Q system shapes our thoughts quietly, preventing paths that would leave a life permanently unbalanced. Certain ideas never take hold. Certain choices feel impossible to sustain. Each mind moves within a shared field of consequence, where one person's excess or hardship can subtly affect others. Even dreams play a role, acting as a quiet workshop for emotion, allowing the mind to rehearse fear or joy to fine-tune the balance without altering reality. In a universe governed by the law of fairness, not every outcome is possible. Any path that would lead to a permanently unfair result is filtered out before it happens. It is as if the universe ensures that no one ultimately ends with an irredeemably unfair lot. We choose, but only among options that can be balanced by the death of mind. Life is more constrained than it appears, unfolding along fewer possible trajectories than we imagine, because only fair endings are permitted to exist. One way to view the law of fairness is through a spiritual lens. In this view, the Creator designed life to be fair, not through constant intervention, but through structure. Fairness is automated, woven into reality like a natural law. For any afterlife, this framework suggests that each being would die with their emotional ledger complete. We do not carry excess joy or unresolved sorrow forward. No life is destined for endless pain without resolution, and no debt of feeling is left unpaid. Across history, traditions offered guidance on how to live, how to treat others, and how to endure suffering. Long before we understood the law of fairness, stories, rituals, and moral frameworks helped people stabilize their lives and make sense of hardship. They preserved order and meaning in a world that felt unjust. We are drawn to beliefs and practices that help us carry joy and sorrow in proportion because we intuitively sense the ledger behind experience. In the end, we live by our balance, and we die by our balance. Many have sensed a missing piece in our understanding of existence. The law of fairness might be that piece, the key connecting what science observes with what spirituality teaches, as well as what countless people have experienced firsthand. Together, these perspectives form one complete picture of reality. Scientists, philosophers, and seekers have pointed toward this for centuries, calling it hedonic adaptation, fate, karma, or divine will. The law of fairness may be the unifying thread that ties them all together, grounded not in wishful thinking, but in the nature of mind. This perspective sheds new light on old ideas. Consider the deadly sins. Excesses like greed, gluttony, or pride are deadly because they flood a life with extreme pleasure that destabilizes the ledger. They push life so far out of experiential balance that the Q system's guardrails must intervene forcefully, compressing the trajectory to preserve fairness. If we live closer to balance, we reduce the need for these harsh adjustments. How much of the pain and physiological change that we associate with aging arises from repeated fairness correction? Each of us shapes our own heaven or hell in this life by how we live. When we chase easy pleasure and avoid pain, imbalance accumulates. Over time, life introduces resistance, strained relationships, conflict, or friction to restore equilibrium. Others may respond harshly to us, not out of malice, but as part of this balancing process. When we live with moderation, fewer corrections are required. No virtue exempts us from balance, and no fortune goes unpaid. Every pleasure carries weight, and every hardship contributes to the final accounting. Bad things still happen to good people so that life remains fair for everyone. We pursue goals expecting profound satisfaction. We tend to think effort is the price of the goal, but the law of fairness reframes this. The strain of effort helps pay for the joy of achievement. Satisfaction must be earned somewhere in time. When effort is avoided, unearned pleasure pulls us out of alignment, often returning as failure or setbacks later. Some accomplishments demand hardship first, because their fulfillment would otherwise push the felt experience too far into debt. Obstacles are not punishment, but a necessary structure of fairness. Think of your daily habits as entries on a balance sheet of pleasure and pain. Are there unnecessary pleasures you can trim? Mindless scrolling, extra indulgences, or idle comforts may feel good now, but they carry hidden costs that add up. Cutting back on easy comforts and instead choosing challenge is one way of managing the ledger. Focus on working hard, building good habits, and letting go of what doesn't matter. Discipline is not just productivity, it is an investment in future satisfaction, reducing the need for involuntary corrections later. Whenever life feels unfair, remember the law of fairness. If you are enduring a hard time or have not accomplished a goal, recognize this difficulty as part of how balance is maintained. When something wonderful happens, cherish it, but do not overindulge. Trusting in this balance can bring comfort during struggle and humility during success. Every experience, whether welcome or painful, plays a role in guiding a life toward its fair conclusion. We are being steered toward neutrality, one experience at a time. We are all part of one living fabric. Every act of care or cruelty sends ripples through the whole, shaping not only our own balance, but the balance of those around us. While the Q system guides experience toward balance, it never justifies causing harm or withholding kindness. Our duty is to ease suffering and lift one another, letting compassion protect the world's stability. Just as excess can destroy a single life, cruelty or indifference can destroy a society. Through moderation and care, we can live in ways that never threaten the law of fairness, allowing humanity's full potential to unfold.